Hi everyone, welcome to the Wishpond's SOS Marketing Series. I have with me the amazing Derric Haynie, and he's going to show us the tools and tips we'll need for an e-commerce store during COVID-19.
Okay, all right. So I mean, there's so many things that we can think about. Some businesses are doing well at this time and like skyrocketing in demand and success. Others, obviously, especially in maybe luxury, have completely dried up. But what I really want to focus on is for maybe businesses that have seen a small change or shrink in demand and want to tighten up their spend, especially on the tech tool side. But we can talk about maybe even how that relates outside into internal resources and just making sure that every dollar you're spending in your organization is having the appropriate ROI, given what you could say is a new forecast, right? New change in what you think might be your 6-month or 12-month revenue runtime, because we all need to keep cash flow. And e-commerce is a cash flow, suck. So it's important to really think about that. So on the tool sides, the first thing I really think about is like, look at your highest paying tools, your biggest monthly spend tools, and think about how you might be able to contract or eliminate some of those. And so the real first thing that comes to mind, and you told me that we have people speaking or have spoken on email marketing. I don't want to talk about email marketing strategy. A lot of great, smart people that could talk about strategy. But one of the things in e-commerce is that there's a portion of your email list that will never buy from you again. And there's actually a tool called Segments by Trestle, but you can probably do this with just a manual lookup. And what I'm saying is, look at your email list. Look at people that have subscribed to your email list 6 months or later in the past, and haven't visited your website or opened an email in that time. A lot of people, if you've got an email list of 50,000, you might find up to 20,000 emails in that list that are just dead. And what I recommend is exporting them from your CRM, like a Klaviyo or an OmniSend, and deleting them from that database. That will save you hundreds of dollars a month, because most of those companies are billing by contact record. And so you can actually just reduce your tech spend right there by a few $100s. It's an easy win. And honestly, you can do this on a monthly basis in an ongoing way to make sure that your CRM is marketing, or what you're spending for your tech tool spend is focused on the customers that are actually going to ROI for your business, right? And so we're removing the people that have kind of less than a $1 revenue value for our company, because obviously they're costing more in the CRM than not. So that's tip number one, perhaps.
Maybe 6 months down the line, or what's the time period I would cut off people who haven't opened my emails? Or what's the requirement that would tell me I should take this person off my list?
This is a great question. And actually, there is a scientific way to go about this. So the best thing you could do is analyze your customer database and how they perform. So most companies, we have our first purchase moment, and some companies have a 20% repeat purchase rate. Some people have subscription products that, are much, much higher. Some people have 80% repeat purchase rates. And so with every business, it's a little bit different. Some products are really simple and you buy them on the first day that you learn about them. Some products require, especially high value products, require a long time to understand. Like if you're buying a new car and you visit the website 40 times or whatever it is. And I've seen this in complex parts and complex products that are being sold. And so first, thinking about that lead time up to the first purchase and the natural reason why somebody might buy from you again is really what's going to be the starting determining factor for that. But then you can actually use your own data to categorize this, to say, okay, it looks like of the repeat purchasers, 90% of all repeat purchases happen within the first 30 days, right? So right away, and this is going to be different for every business, but right away you can actually look at your data and figure that out just by it's a little bit of a cohort analysis kind of thing. But like I said, there's this tool called Segments by Trestle. It plugs into your Shopify store. It does cost money, but you could actually just pay, I think, it might be $80 to use it once, and it literally scores each of your emails on that like they haven't opened an email, they haven't been to the website, so that it'll give people a score of 0 to 100. And obviously, you can just delete all of the zeros, and so you don't really have to think about it too much. If you want to do it manually, then you set a baseline for yourself. It could be 7 days, it could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, it could be 180. Really just think about your business and how often people should be repeat purchasing. At the end of the day, for me, if nobody's opened an email, engaged with my business, been to my website, or bought for me in 90 days, I'm probably like not going to get them back. So I might send them one last win back campaign, right? One last big opportunity or sale or push. And if they don't open and engage with that, I'm going to assume I'm in their spam folder or that they're just not interested. And I'll export that list. I might put it in Facebook ads and run ad campaigns to that audience, but I'm not going to keep them in my CRM. I'm going to basically treat them like a new customer or a new prospect again, and kind of pretend I don't even have their email address.
So once you've identified all the people on your list that you could probably delete, before you delete them, you could probably send them a last follow-up, see if it might work, see if you could get some people back on the list, maybe 10 or 20, 100, before you completely delete them off the list. Okay, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, that's the idea. So, and then on the same lines of that, I also want to talk about the other channels that we can use to amplify that message. Because like I said, if we're talking just email, they're probably going in the spam folder or they're not engaging. It's a low engagement channel if you think about it. So before you lose them, try and get more users into a messenger marketing list or an SMS marketing list. Or you could even use direct mail to re-engage in certain cases if it makes sense for your business. And so thinking about the other channels that you can get them on. And in a really specific case, some tools are doing this now. Just a few tools in the messenger marketing space have the ability for you to choose whether you can do SMS marketing or messenger marketing. And when we're talking about margin on a business, it has an impact because it costs between 1 and 7 cents to send an SMS message, and messenger messages are free. So if you're able to see that your user is opted in on both messenger and SMS, start on messenger. And then for those that don't engage or aren't on messenger, send an SMS. So there's a good way to create a segmentation of your audiences. It saves just a little bit of money. But if you're doing 10,000, 20,000, or 100,000 SMS messages, a month, this adds up to a few $1,000s in revenue. And if you're talking about firing somebody who maybe you pay $60,000 a year, you might be able to save their job by making these adjustments that I'm talking about.
So what other tools can I consider not using or finding an alternative for it in my business, in my e-commerce store?
Yeah. So this is a good question. I think sometimes we use, well, I want to stick with higher cost tools because there are some like cheapo $5 or $10 tools that probably, removing this isn't going to save the business too much. But there could be other tools, like there are tools that do help you with product reviews or referral marketing, where you might be seeing an impact and you go, wow, we're getting 100 new reviews on our products because we're using a Judge Me or a Looks or a Smile. And these tools are important and we want to get reviews. But maybe because of the nature of one of these tools and how they bill, like maybe you're doing 500 reviews a month. Maybe you only need 50 reviews a month in order to get the social proof you need to continue running and growing the business. So while it is important to send a customer a satisfaction email and get that feedback from them, there could be an opportunity to shrink or even delete or pause a tool like that. So a lot of those tools put social proof on a website. You can do that manually. You can add in a few lines of code once. A lot of those tools email the customer list and make it really easy to create a review. You could actually do that using your email service provider. Depending on which one you have, it wouldn't increase your costs necessarily. So you could do that on your own as well, or you could do that in messenger marketing or SMS marketing as well. So you could think about an alternative way to capture that information. Now, I really do like those tools from a long-term standpoint, so I'd be really reluctant to cancel them altogether, but you might be able to find a workaround using kind of internal processes and other tools to replace a lot of that work and then cut your costs.
So you're saying it if, for instance, a tool is doing very well, instead of completely stop using that tool, I can just downgrade or find a way to just find a smaller plan I can budget with, and that can help me to still meet my revenues. I can still use that tool, I can still get some of the results that I already getting without having to spend as much.
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to the point of like, maybe it's 2 points, which one is that like, what revenue is that tool really generating? And this is often hard to track. And that's why I also mentioned referral marketing tools. Referral marketing is very important. We want people to refer friends. We want to make it easy for them and all that stuff. But people do refer friends on their own using word of mouth and without giving you a discount or a link back to the site. So when your referral marketing tool says that, 5% of new purchases are coming through the tool, what percent of new purchases might come through without the tool? 3%? Or is it the same 5%? And then you look at the marginal cost of the tool. It might take a percentage of each transaction or sale. And it might be, incentivizing lots of discounting for both sides. The purchaser and the referrer might both get money from you. So these programs can be very successful. I would be very careful in changing them. But there are those questions about like, how do we want to change that program or change the numbers within it? Just changing how much we're discounting, and maybe instead of discounting, you're pushing a cause or a or kind of regular altruism. So you're just saying by referring a friend, you're helping our business grow so that we can maintain during a tough time. And so you might be able to just get away with removing that discount and still getting the same referral coefficient.
Okay, awesome. But I know that we're talking about reducing tools. I see a lot of business owners who are actually turning off their ads and withdrawing their ad funds. If they decide to implement this downgrade, what are other ways or other things that they could implement while they're downgrading or they're stopping tools that may not be benefiting them as much as they thought they did? What happens after? So I'm a business owner. I've listened to everything you said. I've decided, okay, I don't need this tool, but I can reduce this plan. I can downgrade. What happens after?
Yeah. And even before we get to that, I do think the biggest takeaway that we've kind of gotten to thus far is analyze your tool stack. And because of these changes, like shutting down ads, maybe there are tools that need to be eliminated, paused, or downgraded. And so that is just the number one takeaway, is to look at what you're spending on your stack and make some considerations and adjustments. As far as, and when it comes to advertising, I see like if you shut down core components to your business, like some of the things we've been talking about, and like advertising, that's just a downward spiral to ensure that your business fails. To me, sometimes it can be. Sometimes it's pulling back and trying to stay alive during a tough time. But sometimes you're setting yourself up for continuously less and less numbers. So I actually think now is a great time to invest in advertising. Cost per 1,000 impressions has gone down dramatically, and a lot of brands are seeing more success than ever before, depending on the product line. If you're like I said, luxury purses is an example. Doesn't matter how hard you advertise, really, really tough to sell right now. And I feel for the brands that are in those niche, especially luxury and high-end spaces. But if you are just kind of in the middle of the market, maybe your SEO traffic has changed dramatically in the last few months, but you're still selling product, there could be opportunity to reinvest there. And then, so to me, the future is extremely interesting. And I've really built my whole business around understanding how the technology landscape is changing, and how fast it changes is just astonishing. So something that I think most people aren't doing, as not just the regular reviews of their tool stack in the same way that we've already described, to understand, is this tool impacting revenue in the way that we think it is? Is this tool charging us too much money because of it's based on some metric that we can actually manipulate on our end? Who's in charge of this tool? Who's reporting on the success of this tool inside my organization? Who's managing it, and what happens if we fire or let that person go? Like then, a lot of times people let go a key team member, whether they want to or they not, and the tools that person was in charge in still gets monthly billed to the company, but no one's managing them. So changing the process around tools is really important to understand who owns them, who's reporting on them, how do we keep our costs relative to our ROI from the tool? And then also, nobody in most e-commerce businesses consider it their job to discover new tools, right? And so we need to stay on the forefront of technology. We have amazing artificial intelligence tools that are changing the landscape really quick. Augmented reality is coming in. How we upsell and cross-sell, the whole multi-channel marketing approach. Everything's changing. So influencer marketing changing so fast that if we don't know that there's a tool that solves this huge problem, then we miss out on that. And I don't want people to live in pure FOMO, but you do want an understanding of the landscape. You want to know when there's a great new shipping insurance tool that can totally, change how you do fraud prevention, how you do return processes. And you also can look inside your business at what's taking your team's time and go, is technology a better solution for this? So if you're in spreadsheets all day long, if your operations team is doing thousands of minor changes to SKU counts and descriptions and all that stuff, you might say, maybe there's a transformation technology tool, there's a data transformation tool called Vesta as an example, that can save this person, 10 hours a week of time. And that's a good, 10 hours a week is probably less than the $200 a month for the tool. And so you can think about how that scales out the person's time and makes things more valuable. On the flip side, as we talked about, scaling out their time might not be what you care about right now. So you might say, oh, they actually have too much time, and we're going to go back to a manual process from a technology implementation, because technically, while this tool saves you time, it's not saving the business money. So we're going to cost you a little bit more time for the foreseeable future. And when you run out of time, because we already pay your salary and we want to pay you money, when you run out of time, we'll re-implement the tool, and we'll look to scale the business when we start back on our previous trajectory. And so those are some of the things that I think about in a business that's often really overlooked. No one talks about the tool stack, the costs of the tools, the real cost of the tool to the business bottom line, and its impact on top line either. It's a really tricky thing because it gets muddled really fast.
Okay, thank you. That was a lot of information, but needed. I think a lot of people needed to hear that. And what's the final takeaway that you have for our audience as we wrap up?
Just being, typically as the CEO of your company, or maybe the CMO, head of marketing, it is your job to understand the tool landscape, to understand your own stack. A lot of companies, a lot of e-commerce sites don't have their own CTO. But even if you have a CTO, they might be looking at the raw technology stack, and you're looking at a marketing stack, an operations stack, a finance stack, right? These are all the things that we need to put in place in our business. When they integrate well with each other, when tool A talks to tool B, and we have all of our data organized in one place, this is when we start to win as business. We start to use our data to our advantage. So you can't spend enough time really thinking about this tool stack. A Chief Technology Officer. Yeah, because we have the Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Technology Officer, or the CEO. Each one of them can think about their layer of the stack. But at the end of the day, we don't want these things siloed. We want all departments talking to each other, which means all of their technology needs to talk to each other, which means at the end of the day, the CEO is going to be in charge of that, unless you hire a chief technologist or an internal technologist who understands the needs of all of your departments and understands the landscape better than anybody else and does that. And that's a really hard, I wouldn't recommend that hire for almost anyone. I come in nicely for that, and I do that for free for businesses. So, but you need to know a good amount of that as a e-commerce store.
Okay, thank you very much, Derric. Thank you everyone who's listening, and thank you for joining the SOS Marketing Series.